Are we in a moment right now? Are we having a moment in the creator economy? What's your POV?
I think we are in a little bit of a zeitgeisty moment, but I think as we all know, creators have been around for a long time. They've been monetizing for almost 10 years. It went from a fun hobby to something that is a true art form. And so it's nice to finally see the space be recognized for what it is, which is informational and entertainment and across all platforms and all verticals, which is a huge feat, and both organic and paid content. So while it is having a moment, it's not new.
I think maybe the brands are really starting to take notice in a different way. And I think that's like, where it happens, because that's where the buck stops, right? And I think Goldman Sachs projected that the creator economy is going to be, by the end of the decade, worth $500 billion. And so it's only going to get bigger and bigger. And I think part of that is because people are beginning to trust working with creators and also trust the process by which to work with creators. And so before we get into like how exactly brands can work with superstars like you, why don't we talk a little bit about your come up story and how you became a creator and what you do?
Yeah, I mean, it was really just a hobby at first. Like, honestly, like I had no intention of it ever becoming a thing. It was so, I feel like, especially with TikTok, when it,
Was it TikTok?
It was TikTok, yeah.
Okay.
It was pandemic time that things started to really pop off.
It was like a rainy night.
It was a rainy night, and like overnight, within weeks, my life changed. I was like, people are watching these things that I'm posting that were at first for fun. Like, it was just literally, I don't even want to watch my old videos because I was just posting whatever I thought was funny.
Wait, how long ago was this?
This is back in honestly, end of 2019 is when I started to kind of really start to post. And then 2020, I had nothing else to do. So
nothing else to do.
Yeah, every single day. New video, new something.
You did daily?
Oh, I did daily.
Wow.
There was even a time when I had a series that I would have people come back for parts. It was and that was a whole different time.
Tell me about your creative process. How does it work?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with my real life. So sometimes I have notes in my phone, and if I see something funny happen, I'll write it in my notes and be like, I have to make a skit about that. Or I'll watch the interaction between, a lot of it is based on my real family. So I'll watch something happen and then I'll write it in my notes and I'm like, okay, I need to make that into a skit. And a lot of the characters that I do in my skits are based on real people that I know. Mm-hmm. So it's funny because a lot of them, they always call me out about it. My aunt will send me a video. She's like, is this about me? Were you trying to imitate me? And I'm like,
you're like,
maybe
wow.
A part of it was, but no. But yeah, so a lot of it's just based on
they say you're so vain, you probably think this video is about you.
That's what I say.
So, okay, so you're basically, let's break it down. You're a comedian.
Yeah.
You do Latina inspired content. You adopt a bunch of characters. What's some of your favorite work that you've done? What?
Well, I feel the one that most people like is my fun single aunt. That's been my thing,
She's the fun one.
But honestly,
because we can all relate to that. Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing too, is because I had a fun single aunt as well, and she was the one that was all fun and then, okay, time for responsibility, back to mom, right? And I can totally relate to that. So it's not it's just focused on Latina audiences, right? It's just, that's just sort of the subject matter and the canvas that you build this highly relatable content. It's part of the reason why you're so successful.
Yeah. I say it's almost the same thing, but just in a different font. Everyone has their own, their own aunt that is a certain way with their culture, but it's just specifically mine, and people can still relate to it.
How much fun is it to be that person when
it's
you
the
do
best.
That character?
Dude, I've been doing that for she's been popping since 2020.
Now, is there a real auntie out there?
Oh yeah, she knows exactly who she is.
She knows exactly. Calling you out right now.
So I always say, because I love her, but I'm you can't take all the credit, because she was the fun single aunt, but I took elements of my different ones, the style of one aunt. I have this one aunt, she comes out with her crazy outfits everywhere she goes. Makeup's done. She's she wants the attention, and she'll say it too. She's I want everyone to look at me when I walk in. Yeah. So I took that essence of her, mixed with my aunt, who would be, single, asking me about my teachers. She'd be so Mr. Antonio, I always say, she's Mr. Antonio. So is he single? Because I'll go to the teacher conference and I would have to tell her girl, behave, behave, because she was like that. That's how she really was. So I made it into a thing, and now, that kind of took off.
Incredible. I love it. So how did you end up working together?
Yeah. Well,
I mean, this is a great question. In, I believe it was early 2021, at Whalar, we put together a content house called Familia Fuego.
It's called what?
Familia Fuego.
Familia Fuego. Okay.
Yes. And we put together a great group of content creators, you being one of them. Mm-hmm. And they lived in a house for, I believe it was 6 months. We worked with some great brand partners, had a lot of fun. And for a lot of the creators, this was their way of coming to LA and having this place to collaborate and meet other people and have this kind of like community connection, especially during the pandemic when so many people were making this content and growing their social platforms from home, that now they're able to be together. And almost every single one of you from that opportunity just really took it and said, I'm going to see how far I can make this go. And I mean, look, 3-4 years later, everyone has pretty amazing standalone careers as very powerful storytellers and creators.
Yeah, it's sort of like having a workout partner, right? I mean, like you're inspired by each other. Daily content is very hard to do. That's a huge creative challenge. Yeah, undertaking. And I think that's very commendable. Are you still doing daily?
Yeah, no, not daily. I probably should get back on that, but you know.
But that's how you have to start. I mean, you have to really grind it out. I mean, you think about all the creators that have made it huge, like Mr. Beast, you know, that Casey Neistat, even like one generation back there, they were doing that daily grind because that's the way you build the fire. No pun intended with the Fuego house.
No, but it is true. And I think every creator can kind of feel that same pressure in the beginning of their career. And then how do you sustain that? How do you keep that creativity and that momentum going from doing daily videos to then really harnessing in a deeper place to take it to the next level, which sometimes means not doing daily anymore to make sure that your quality of content is still high. So that's a real challenge.
Definitely a temptation with a lot of creators. It's like, okay, if I get this many views off of this video, and let's say that translates to brand dollars or AdSense or whatever it is. It's like, okay, well, if I just do twice as many videos, I'll do twice as well. And there's they're diminishing returns, right? And that's like where the burnout kind of comes out there too. So what's important is to like really be thoughtful and careful about the projects that you do and do them well. And I think that's a nice segue into about working with brands, right? Working with brands comes with its own challenges, but also with huge amounts of opportunity because it also allows you to focus singularly on a project and not have to grind it out, hopefully as much. So let's talk about how you work with brands, and then we can talk a little bit about how the subject of this is that we're all creators and we should start thinking like them, including brands. And do you have any examples of brands you've worked with that really worked out well? And what are the components that made that a successful moment for you?
Yeah, I think one of my favorite, I'm able to name them, right?
As you wish. I mean, we didn't prep this. This is a completely off the cuff conversation. So,
well, I'll tell you about a great experience I had with a brand.
You can just name anonymous if you're not comfortable. It's fine. It's a great experience, so I'm sure it's fine.
I'm good. I want to talk about it. I think it was cool.
Okay, cool.
So I did one with State Farm specifically.
State Farm.
Yes, it was one of the coolest things I think I did because they let me write my own script to use Jake from State Farm in. And that was like,
wait, what?
I did a skit with Jake from State Farm.
No way.
Yes. And it was the coolest thing because they let me write my script. They I literally sat down with him and I was like, hey, Jake, this is what you're going to do. Like, you're going to do this, because they just let me control what the project was going to be. And that was so cool to me because
that is cool.
Dude, they let me be so authentic. They let me use like Puerto Rican slang. It was not like, it was just so like authentic to my content that it was awesome that they let me use like their protected character, because Jake is, this character that obviously everyone like loves, and they like trusted me to use him in my content. So that was so.
Did you get the sense that the brand really knew you and your content?
Yes.
And like they were fans, basically.
Yes. I feel like I know that when they kind of call it, I remember it was very like intimate, like the email that they sent, because they called out content they loved. They were like, we love these videos that you do. Like, we love we love that. We would love for you to write a script and like have Jake somehow incorporate it, send us 3 ideas, and then we'll just kind of like, pinpoint which ones we are like more interested in doing. So
it wasn't like, hi, name.
No.
We'd like for you to work with brand.
No. No, you can spot those ones so easily. I can get into that one.
Yeah.
You can spot those ones so easily.
No, but that's great. And then it sounded like they really trusted you.
They did.
Now, I mean, obviously that's incredible. I mean, what a great experience. It sounds like they really vetted and got, well, please, I don't need to talk.
No, well, I was just going to say, I mean, I think this is the perfect segue into the idea that not only brands or creators working with creators is, let's think about, Jake from State Farm is the IP of State Farm, right?
Yeah, for sure.
He's been in so many commercials that their commercial team is focusing on. Their ad team is writing those scripts. They're doing all of those things. And now as they are getting into the creator space in, 2023, 2024, they were able to say, okay, Jake is our creator. Jake is our IP. And this is almost a collaboration.
Yeah, it's like a collab.
Of you, the creator, or collaborating with Jake, the creator, who happens to be attached to a brand. And let's figure out what is that creator content. And if you were collaborating with another general creator that's a friend, you would do the exact same thing. You guys would write a script, you'd go back and forth.
You have your brand, their brand,
Exactly.
your audience, their audience.
You make sure that it feels good, it has a good flow, it makes sense for both parties, and that's exactly what you did in this.
I love that.
Yeah.
Did it do well?
Yeah, it did great. Like, people to this day, I would still get people that are like, how did this happen? Like,
Well, and your direct manager called me the day after you guys filmed and was like, oh my God, it was so fun. Like, it was so great to see that play out.
That's great.
it was so cool.
So I'd like that you said that about, like, State Farm created a character that, could exist on social and behave on social. And I think driving back to that sort of overarching topic that we're talking about, like, everyone's a creator and we need to start thinking like one. Whether your brand, it's not necessarily a character that you create out of your brand, but it could be the brand itself can have a persona and a character. Like, let's see what are some like tips and tricks we can do for those brands out there that are looking to become creators of a sort, and then we can talk about how they can, once they're done trying that, work with some pros and figure out ways to collaborate, right? There must be a pathway they can go from just a consumer brand to a brand that has a personality and a character that exists in social media and social video.
I think some do a really good job of being community driven. So that's one route you can take. You can look at what are people commenting in social? How are they playing with that? What are the posts that are being organically posted across social? And how do they as a brand interact with that? I used an example. I have no affiliation with it, but just like many people, I saw it go viral of Stanley earlier this year. Someone posted randomly on TikTok that her car caught on fire, but then she went back into the car and got her Stanley cup.
Yeah.
And there was still ice in the cup.
That is awesome.
After the car caught
After the car burned down,
fire.
this thing was still chilled.
Yeah. And so then their community team did such a good job of seeing this video as it's starting to go viral. Then the CEO got involved, stitches the video on the platform, and is basically like, hey, we stand by our product so much, and like, thank you so much for sharing this experience. We're also going to get you a new car because that kind of sucks.
Nice.
And that was a great moment. And then on the flip side of it, I mean, and the return on investment of like the $50,000 car or whatever from what they were getting on a social perspective, you can't buy it.
Game show strategy.
You can't buy it. And then on the flip side, you have brands like Duolingo, where they have an energy, they have a service, it's an app, and they created this persona that does great collaborations with other creators, great collaborations with their own employees within the company. And I just think the social strategy behind that's been phenomenal. They also have a really good touch of community management in there, but they created their own thing. And once again, it's proven to work with now how many people are like tracking their streak and are downloading the app. So you just have to have fun with it. Like this new generation, they don't want stale advertising anymore. And I know some of these storied brands have layers and layers of approvals, but we got to have a little more fun.
Well, no, it's interesting because in both examples, you talked about the people behind the company, right? You said the CEO kind of got involved as a character of themselves. And then you said sometimes like Duolingo, the employees kind of get involved. And that's interesting too, because that's also a trust thing, because like CEO's going to change.
All creators. They're all creators.
We're all creators.
You have engineers at Duolingo who are in social content because it's a fun thing to do in the middle of their day and work with their social and marketing team. They become a creator because they're a part of this content. The CEO of Stanley in that example, he becomes a creator stitching that video.
Right.
So it's like you really have to look at it that way.
I just think that's really, really important. So now you're also a brand in of yourself. And so like you have to, now that you're very successful, you have to be careful as well about how you position yourself. And do you involve people? Are you a one person show, or do you have people behind you, and are they also in the scene as well?
Yeah, I would say I'm more of a one-person show for sure. I kind of do everything kind of on my own when it comes to actually making my content and filming and everything. But I am super, and my manager knows this too, I'm super careful with the things that I post. I do acknowledge like being brand safe or being brand friendly. So that's why a lot of my content, like I try to keep it family friendly, just to kind of have like a brand safe face for a lot of things. So yeah, but it's mostly just me doing my thing.
Wow, that's so impressive.
Yeah.
It's so intense.
I try.
And I think that's a misconception of creators and the creator community. It's like, okay, well, if you are a brand and you have a social strategist, you have a community manager, you have all these people who are helping to build this story and this community of a brand. Well, the creators that you're working with are doing all of those jobs in one.
Yeah, and distribution, right? So we think about it, it's like you're not just talent.
Yeah.
You are entrepreneur, right? You are distribution, your reach, your creativity, and your performance. Yeah. And that's a lot of value. That's a lot of value.
It's funny too, because even when I'm very particular about what brands I work with, because you can kind of tell when it just becomes okay, like let me go for like that creator for the wrong reasons. Like if it's a lot of times, like even during like Hispanic Heritage Month, I'll get like brands that'll reach out and it's very like, they'll mention something that you could just tell they didn't even watch any of my content.
You're trying to hit a box.
Yeah.
It's so obvious.
It's so obvious. I'm like, I've gotten a lot, I think what really gets me upset is like, if you look at just my profile, you can see that I'm Puerto Rican, that's my background. But I've gotten brands during those times that are like, oh, like we would love, they'll mention something that has to do with like the Mexican culture. And I'm like, that's crazy. Because if you actually looked at my profile, you would see that like, hey, she's a Puerto Rican flag. Like she's not, Mexican.
So like, have you gone down that path with those brands and learned your lesson, or
no,
you just don't even touch
Once
it?
Once I see that,
we'll see. And this is why as a creator, you have management, because I've had scenarios before, same thing, where we have a beautiful brown female and we get an inquiry from, this is a true story that happened. We got an inquiry from a brand. The deal was pretty much done. We were getting on a briefing call and we got on the briefing call and they're like, oh, so you're going to do all of this content in Spanish. And I had to tell the brand that she's Persian. She doesn't speak Spanish because she's not of a Hispanic background whatsoever.
Yeah.
And because the deal was already done, I said, well, we're going to have to go back to the drawing board about this, because clearly you are just contracting with this talent for something that you thought, but you didn't.
Well, I thought maybe, it was Duolingo and they're going to teach her how to speak Spanish and like, it was all going to be good.
Right. No. But
like, no, we got that. Yeah. We're going to teach her how to speak Spanish as part of this whole success story.
That was the most awkward briefing call I may have
That's
ever
tough.
my entire life.
Yeah. And like, what ended up, that's just like what that is that's an indicator that there's not going to be that same care every step of the way down to getting paid on time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
1,000%.
every step of the way, if it's that cavalier and that there's not that much care, it's not going to be just that once.
Well, they were just trying to check a box during Hispanic Heritage Month.
Yeah.
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 So, okay. What is for those brands out there that want to be you, they want to be creators and successful and resonate and be charming and tall, well-dressed,
tall,
smart. What's the hardest part about your job?
I don't want to say being creative, but it's kind of just like continuing to make content that I authentically really like to make, and I know that like my followers can also enjoy. Like I feel like there's, especially with like how it like content is now, sometimes people are just posting just for like numbers or just for
just to get it out there.
Yes, but I really like feel it's so important to authentically be yourself, because that's what's going to make you stand apart from, you know, like a crowd of people, whether you have a big, you know, following or not. Like I think that's what's going to really make you stand out. So for me, I think it's still being authentic and making content that I also like, but also content that my followers also enjoy. So I think it's kind of just finding that balance. It can be really hard, actually. I feel like a lot of times I'm like in these moments where I'm like, okay, I don't know if they like this anymore, so should I try to do something else that like maybe is like a trend, or maybe like other people are doing? You kind of have to find ways to still kind of adapt to new changes with like social media trends and all that, but still kind of like authentically make content that's also, you know, for yourself too.